You've been training hard, eating clean, but you still look soft. And it's not just about fat. Actually, there are two different compartments of fat. And what exactly the integral part of your training? Like, how does the training really works? And as I always kept saying that you only invest about, say, an hour or 15 minutes into the training, or probably invest in training and making yourself better. Let's talk about visceral fat. That's known as VAT. It's the fat that's around the internal organs in the abdominal cavity. Let's deep dive into this video.
There are a lot of trainers, but then there is Praveen Nair.
प्रवीण को मिलो सब कुछ अजीब हो जाएगा। वाह, मुझे लगता है कि मेरा पहला ट्रेनर जो है ये प्रवीण है और
He being so busy with all the top notches in every career, everyone goes to Praveen.
Most people think all the fat is the same thing. The fat that you see in the mirror, that you sometimes see on your cheek, on your stomach. At the same time, the fat actually kills you from inside. These fats are completely different types of fats. And today we're going to dig deep into understanding how to fix this and what are the actual differences that it has and how to fix this forever in a permanent method. So we're going to talk about the training protocols, how does it really work with the hormones, and how much duration, what to be eaten, how to really take care of these kind of situations. Let's deep dive into this video. Today we're going to be talking about subcutaneous fat, at the same time visceral fat. You've been training hard, eating clean, but you still look soft. And it's not just about fat. Actually, there are two different compartments of fat that you need to know about it to get the best results. Stepping on the treadmill, walking a bit, or probably trying to run a bit, and they just fall down and they just die. And we're going to understand why those things happen and what exactly the integral part of your training, like how does the training really works. And as I always kept saying that you only invest about, say, an hour or 15 minutes into the training, or probably invest in training and making yourself better. Those 15 minutes has to really make it a point that you really get to meet all those principles that VO2 max, we spoke last time in detail about it, and at the same time having muscle mass. So everything has its own benefits in your life. So having VO2 max will define your heart condition, or probably at a lower heart rate or resting heart rate that we called as. In athletes, they have somewhere about 48 to somewhere close to about 60. In normal people, we have somewhere about, say, 60 to up to 75. And the people who are like really unfit, or probably who really has to work towards their fitness, you'd find their resting heart rate to be somewhere about, say, 70 plus or up to about 90. And then in some scenarios, when we train people in the gym, we get to see that they do a couple of squats and lunges. Their heart rate is about roof touching at about 170, 190 kind of stuff. And they can't literally breathe, and we need to ask them to take a break and sit down and then come back and join whenever they feel a bit comfortable. And that happens in this parameters has its own effects. Similar manner, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be talking about the subcutaneous fat and the visceral fat, how to really work towards making these numbers in your favor, that you look good, at the same time you feel good, which is ideally the way you feel from the internal part, or probably your internal organs. So let's deep dive into it. Well, I'm Praveen Nair. I'm founder of Sweatfit Wellness, an entrepreneur from Mumbai, at the same time a fitness coach. I love to call myself as fitness coach. I've been a fitness trainer more than about 15, 20 years and trained a lot of celebrities and have done a lot of transformations. The beauty about the transformations, they're very much special. From the point of view, every transformation has its own story to speak about it. Today, we're going to talk about, over the years, I've been to a lot of gyms. I've seen a lot of people losing weight and, working really hard in the gym. What happens is that they lose weight, definitely they lose weight. They get decently fit because they're working hard in the gym, spending a lot of time in the gym. But what eventually happens is that they look still soft. It's about undefined muscles. That is because they didn't understand the difference between the fat that you can pinch, that's about the subcutaneous fat, and the one which is about the visceral fat, which you can't see it. So we need to understand, we need to fix these things in detail to get the best results. What is the difference between subcutaneous fat and the visceral fat? When you wake up in the morning, when you see yourself more retained, or probably you have a lot of water retention on your face, or you look a little puffy on your stomach, or probably say something which you can pinch and feel it. Okay, you can know that, okay, now today I'm pinching this much, probably I can pinch more tomorrow. So that's how you actually measure the subcutaneous fat. And it definitely differs from place to place. In your arms, you can't pinch much. Of course, in your stomach, you can pinch more. So that is the kind of deposition of the subcutaneous fat that you have. That's the reason probably you don't see much of a fat or retention on your arms or on the legs. You will see more of retention on the face or on the stomach. There's more amount of subcutaneous fat which has been deposited over there. Let's talk about visceral fat. That's known as VAT. It's the fat that's around the internal organs in the abdominal cavity. Key functional differences. Visceral fat is metabolically active, releases inflammatory hormones strongly linked to the insulin resistance and diseases. Subcutaneous fat is more of an energy store, less active in releasing harmful substances. Visual analogy, you can grab subcutaneous fat, you can't feel visceral fat, it's hidden. Why fat distribution matters, health and aesthetics. And now you see a lot of people, they're very, very lean. All around the year, they stay lean, but they still have the conditions of heart and they're still under a kind of a medical supervision. Why does that happen? So that's about the visceral fat. So the BMI, body mass index, the height to weight ratio, could be in their favor, but still that particular person who has all the numbers in favor may have a visceral fat which is on a higher side. That can actually cause problems or probably say health condition as such kind of a stuff. So being in fitness, what we need to understand is about having the subcutaneous fat number also in our favor, at the same time visceral fat numbers also in our favors. There are studies found that increased visceral fat strongly associated with higher mortality. Subcutaneous fat in some cases was negatively associated with mortality in overweight women. The case of visceral fat review explains why that is worst. Free fatty acids. Takeaway is that if you want to transform your body and protect your health, you've got to attack the visceral fat and keep your subcutaneous fat under control. Mechanisms, how and why they accumulate differently. Why does your belly hold more visceral fat? Why do your hips and thighs store more of subcutaneous fat? What drives the difference? The major differences are that aging, gender, hormones. Example, men tend to accumulate more of visceral fat, women more of subcutaneous fat. And that's one of the most important reasons that you see most of the youngsters, even at the age of 30, 35, going to the gym and they realize that now it's time to exercise. Of course, these are the people who start exercising or into a fitness regime at a later part of the life, wherein they have realized that probably the blood work, the lipid profile work is not in their favor. That's the time they end up going to a gym or taking membership in the gym. And then all they know that as soon as they get to the gym, now it's about becoming a very extreme version of themselves. They start running at the speed of 15, 16 or 17 and suddenly they fall and then they die. Or probably indulging into a kind of an activity. Now, these days, a lot of people suddenly go for football or any kind of sports activities. And now the good thing is that they're not trained from the point of view of muscle endurance or probably the heart condition. Now, when you put in these kind of efforts, and of course, when you have this visceral fat or probably lipid profile issues and your resting heart rate is not in your favor, and suddenly you start giving that stress to the heart and the heart can't take it, it can't get more oxygen and it just starts dying. And that's what you get to see in these days, people, generally men. If you see the ratio of women and men, most of the men is the one that you get to see a lot of videos of people passing away. It's all about the men. So as I mentioned just now, it's dominantly to do with the hormones. And of course, the men carries more of visceral fat than a woman. Ideal subcutaneous fat for a lean and defined look. Visible abs, 8 to 12% of the body fat and 5 to 9% of the subcutaneous fat. For men, for women it would be about 17 to 22% on the fat and 9 to 14 on the subcutaneous fat. 12 to 15 for fat percentage, body fat percentage, and 8 to 11 for subcutaneous fat for men. For women, 22 to 25 on the fat percentage and 12 to 16 on the subcutaneous fat. That's about athletical definition. General fitness and health, it goes down to about 15 to 18% on the fat percentage on the body fat and 10 to 13% on the subcutaneous fat. For men, for women, it's going to be about 25 to 28 for the fat percentage and 14 to 18 for the subcutaneous fat. You've got enough information about subcutaneous fat and of course visceral fat, and I completely understand that you do understand that visceral fat is the one that you need to be really taking care of. You want to look good, you certainly work on the subcutaneous fat ratios, and then most of the time, most of the people know that it's about following a good lifestyle, eating correctly, and of course working out. But when visceral fat does need more attention, and the kind of actually the scary part is about visceral fat, and it's the responsible fat that can actually get you a lot of medical conditions like type 2 diabetics, blood pressure, blood sugar, all this kind of stuff, along with a lot of endocrine-based, hormone-based challenges as well. So you want to be really knowing the numbers in detail that you can really work towards it. And most of the time, if in case you go to the good gyms as such, you get to see this body composition machine over there. So you can actually understand these numbers quite in a simple method by standing there. Though it won't be completely accurate or precise, but of course, you at least get an understanding about how it has to be done. What are the things that you need to work towards it, or probably what kind of programming or diet changes that you need to do in order to meet those numbers in a better manner to keep your heart condition, health condition better. So I'm going to talk about the numbers now. Ideal visceral fat numbers are here. 1 to 9 is considered as healthy and ideal range. 10 to 14 is about borderline or start reducing, start working towards your fitness, bring the numbers down. 15 plus is about high risk medical attention needed. That's the time that you feel all the things that I mentioned earlier. When you have the 15 plus number on the visceral fat, that's the time that you feel that your heart rate is going up, when you probably start doing a bit of steps, a bit of normal based activities, and you feel heavy on the heart rate. Your heart rate is most of the time, even the resting heart rate stays to be more higher. Those are the times that you see when you do the blood work, you see that the lipid profile is not in your favor. This indicates that now it's time that you take everything very much seriously. At the same time, consult a medical practitioner, get things in an appropriate manner, and start working towards your goal. Let's understand how to really fix these fats, which is highly subcutaneous fat and the visceral fats. If in case you see any athletes, and let's consider Ronaldo at this age of, I think he's about 40 plus. And it's in this best form of fitness. Look at Virat Kohli. Like now, if you've seen Virat at about say 18 or 19 years, and the Virat is at about say close to about 35 and plus, he looks very different. And then what's the outcome? What does it tell you? It simply tells you only one thing, is about changing the pattern of lifestyle, changing the eating pattern, changing the sleeping pattern, getting more disciplined. And of course, these people are the people, if you've seen that, I have to wear most of the time the iWatch. They even wear the sleep trackers, they have Whoop, they have a number of these kind of instruments to really track things down. They have physiotherapists and measures walking around with them to fix those small, corrections. So what do I tell you is that what you see, everybody knows about how it has to be done. Everybody knows that it's about eating correct, it's about sleeping for 7 to 8 hours, it's about drinking water. You certainly know that you want to sleep at about 9 o'clock and wake up by about 4 o'clock, but nobody follows it. And especially cities like Mumbai, it goes the other way around. The youngsters today's dates, they sleep at about, I think, 4 or 5 or 6 o'clock, and they wake up at about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So there's a system, there's a thing that works around it. You must have seen Akshay Kumar, to be more a precise example. So he says that I do not eat past 7 o'clock. And no matter what, I have a lot of friends actually who is very close to Akshay Kumar. They say that no matter what, whichever party that he's in, first of all, he doesn't go for party much. If in case he goes for any parties, he leaves that place by about, say, a certain time, and he gets home by about a certain time. He works out at 5 in the morning. So these are the principles. So it's, as I mentioned earlier, everybody knows that how it has to be done. In simple, to get any changes, you need to certainly know the number that you have at this point of time. So first and the most important thing, you get your body composition done. You start investing on towards a heart rate monitor, that you know that if in case you're doing an intense based exercise, what heart rate that you have. Most of the time, most of the people go to the gym. And in fact, in India, that's the biggest fitness model when it comes to fitness, because people only understand that, they just want to spend about an hour on the treadmill and a couple of machines here and there, and they get fit. In the trustworthy format, it's not about spending time. It's about spending quality full time with anything that you do. Could be spending time with your wife, could be spending time with the kids. See, for example, say, I am with my wife for a coffee and I'm actually using my mobile in front of her. Wouldn't keep her happy, right? She would be like, you took me for a coffee, but you're so much on your mobile and you're just spending time with your messages and your Instagram. So that won't, exactly portray myself, and she wouldn't think, or probably she would not take it as a serious kind of a coffee that I took her for, right? Similar manner, when you are in the gym, you want to really make it a point that 15 minutes really gives you a lot of outcome. And when you go to the gym, we are doing hypertrophy-based exercise routine. When you do this 12, 10, 8, 6 kind of a format, and when you're trying to increase weights, that's about hypertrophy. And now hypertrophy is an outcome of a number of things. That's about having a calorie surplus diet. At the same time, that's about you taking a lot of hormones. That's the reason those bodybuilders looks very much different. They have a lot of huge muscles. They weigh more than about 100 plus kgs, and still the tendon can take those stress. When you start getting so much of volume, your muscle actually becomes too big. I've done bodybuilding in the past, so I do know about it, but with the time, your tendon actually becomes way much weaker. In case you have seen those bodybuilders, they have this huge belly of muscle and the tendon becomes way much weaker. But in your case, you must have done a lot of heavy lifting in the gym and you must have done a lot of hypertrophy-based training protocols. It doesn't really make you fit. Of course, I do agree with you that it does make you fit from the point of view of you having some sort of muscle volume, and it makes you look a bit bigger. But of course, that can be your glycogen storage as well. When you eat a lot of glycogen or probably say carb-based food items, you start storing a lot of muscle glycogen along with the liver glycogen. So you look that little puffy. For example, say you were starving for a couple of days and now suddenly someone gave you a lot of food, and then those food defines to be more of carbohydrates, a lot of fruits, which is highly fructose, and the carbohydrates. So you'll suddenly feel that, your muscles have blown up. It has become much more bigger, much more volume-based muscles. So that's exactly what's happening when you're lifting a lot of hypertrophy-based training protocols and at the same time eating. What do you need to understand that indulge yourself or get into a routine of exercise which gets you compound lifting, which makes you functionally fit. It gives you a lot of work on the tendons. So tendons are the tissues that's around the joints, which gets you movement. So when you become old, your tendons becomes weak because they have less amount of circulation of blood. So you want to make it a point that you train in a full range of motion in order to create your tendons to be stronger, muscles to be stronger. And at the same time, when you start working at beyond a certain heart rate, your heart start functioning in a better manner. In return, you get your visceral fat to be in a better manner. At the same time, when you're working hard, when you are calorie deficit, this is a basic principle that exactly I meant in the beginning, that when you start working on these principles of, being calorie deficit, you start seeing the outcome on your, your fat percentage. And that's exactly how you get the best results from these. You certainly want to be very mindful about your eating patterns. You may want to know that how much calories through the food that you're getting, how much carbs that you're having, and how much fat that you're taking it up. You do know that 1 gram of protein and carbohydrates has about 4 calories, wherein 1 gram of fats has about 9 calories. So being calorie deficit will bring your subcutaneous fat down, make you look more leaner, more better. At the same time, you do know the principles of intermittent fasting. So when you do intermittent fasting, you don't spike your insulin every now and then, which means that in return, you get a better quality of skin, at the same time, a better quality of fat percentage, which is preferably at a lower stage. So you do want to incorporate these all principles of low calorie, knowing what exactly you're doing, taking the numbers on a paper or an Excel sheet or on any app. There are a lot of apps these days. You can track them down, and then about following intermittent fasting to get the best out of it. Adding up some more information to it is about, in India, we end up eating a lot of, trans fat, which is about once you boil the oil or probably when you cook the oil, those becomes trans fat. So you want to keep it very simple as much as possible. You use the salads, probably just boiled stuffs. A lot of principles, a lot of eating pattern that you have in the cooker. And I get to see my mother making these foods, and they use about doodhi and all this kind of stuff. They just about boil. You just put some, Indian masalas and just boil it. You actually have a lot of options that way. We end up eating a lot of salads. And for energy, you can certainly, if in case you're based on a carb eating plan, you may want to keep those carbohydrates to be, which doesn't really spike. So if in case you're in this kind of plan, you're really looking for to get the best results, instead of eating rice or roti, you can just change that into a bit of quinoa. So it gets you fiber, it gets you quality of protein, at the same time, it gets you a bit of carbohydrates that you require. So maybe changing that from rice and roti to quinoa will make a huge difference into the way you feel it, at the same time to get the best results possible. On the other hand, is about drink a lot of water and bring it down to a level of eating pattern which is very much high in fiber. So consuming broccoli soups and things like that can actually add up a lot more fiber into the equation of the meal plan. Add a lot of fibers in the early morning phases, like for example, say avla, ginger, or probably turmeric based juices that you can have in the morning to start the day with. Overall calorie intake to be kept much more lower by introducing more of salad into the meal plan. Introduce more of protein, or probably say amino acid rich foods. So when the protein breaks down, it becomes the amino acid. Every amino acid adds its own certain functions in the body. So look out for more of leucine based meal plans that you can incorporate. And then I would keep it consistency. The consistency is the goal. We'll do most of the time weight loss based goal for a couple of days and then leave that out. So you want to make it a point that you stick around for that certain time. So suppose you took the measurements today, you know the visceral fat, subcutaneous fat. You know that from here, I want to travel to here. Till you get there through the action plan, to the principle that you're going to follow, you want to stick around. So that goes into completely consistency. The conclusion is that subcutaneous fat, when you reduce the subcutaneous fat, you certainly start looking much more better, much more presentable, you feel good, you feel lighter. Visceral fat is the one that's going to certainly kill you with the time if you don't take care of it. Where you feel a youngster is getting heart rate, a lot of health problems, being diabetic at a very young age. You want to make it a point that these two fats completely stays in your favor. Now, the other take home is about the time that you spend in the gym has to be the most productive time that you spend in the gym. So anything that you do it, give your best, know the background of those training protocols. Why are you doing it? how you get to meet the numbers that you're looking for to meet. Probably your parameters on the heart condition, the way you physically look, or probably any outcome that you look forward for. Being said that, as I mentioned earlier, that I'm founder of SweatFit Wellness, and we have outlets as Sweat Pilates and Sweat Boot Camps. These programs are well developed, well programmed by me, and we have an amazing team of trainers who teaches the program. It's a group class structures. So if in case you live around this city of Mumbai, please do walk into our studios, which are Sweat Pilates. We have Andheri West, Malad West, and Goregaon West. And Sweat Bootcamp is at Goregaon West. So please come up. We do give this complimentary trial because we believe that once you know the value for this product and how can you get the best results from the program, then you certainly want to take an experience, then join the program and get the results done. And that's exactly what we believe in, transforming people. And myself, along with my team, we give the best on the table to get the best result that you can take home. On the other hand, if in case you stay far from us, you can certainly join the Sweat online programs and get the best results. We have a lot of transformations. I'm going to put a couple of clips here that you can see the transformation that we've done to people who lives in London and US, all these kind of places. Please put a comment as transformation in the comment section where I can send you a 21 days guide to get you the best results. You exactly know that what are the few principles that to be implemented to get best results. So we have all the principles that we use with any transformation that you do. So comment if in case you're watching this on Instagram, please comment transformation. If in case you're watching on YouTube, please comment transformation. My team will send across to you a 21 days free guide to really get yourself the best version of yourself. See you soon in the next video. Much love, much respect. Stay tuned in and please subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon, and please share a thumbs up or any comment that you feel how this video is going to really help you, or please tag your friends who can get the help from the video. Much love. See you soon.